radio voice of FC Cincinnati. I told the story. I was downtown last weekend, had to go to a charity event. Tommy, thanks for joining us. Are you traveling?
Tom, great to be here.
Are you traveling up to New England today?
I'm on the move later today. We'll get sorted for that game later today. So I'm doing some family stuff this morning. Gonna watch the ponies for a little bit, and then I'll have the call tomorrow night with the top two teams in Major League Soccer. But can I tell you a non-soccer related story quick?
Of course.
This is an exclusive, never shared before, but ties our two broadcast careers together. So you obviously did some Bearcat stuff a couple decades ago, right?
Yep.
And I was with the Bearcats for 9 years and was their sideline reporter for football when Brian Kelly came on. And I went by Tommy Gelehrter on the air at the time. And my boss, Mike Waddell, calls me into his office and says, "You're going to be the sideline reporter for football." Sounds great. Here's the deal. You lose the M and the Y on your name. And he had a list of great broadcasters who go by Tom, not Tommy, to prove the point. And your name was atop it. He asked if I wanted to add the H to go by Thom.
Oh, God.
But he said the only way you get to be the sideline reporter for the Cincinnati Bearcats is if you agree to go by Thom Gelehrter on the air. You can't be Tom anymore. Tommy is immature, all this. So I said, whatever. I had the opportunity to be a sideline reporter for a college football team. So you could have called me Tony and I would have still done the games. But so that kind of ties us together a little bit. And then, of course, Dan and Jim called me Tommy all the time. So that wasn't tied to my arrangement, but that ties us together.
Everybody calls me Tommy. Everybody in my life. My friends, people in the broadcast world, whoever. They all call me Tommy. I think it's a term of effect. Well, when did you all of a sudden bring Tommy back? Because that's what you go by now.
Because nobody knows how to say my last name. So it's Tommy G to everybody. Like, everybody just calls me Tommy G. So, I mean, slowly I let Dan and Jim, like if I introduced myself, I would call myself Tom. And I do still on the air introduce myself as Tom. But everybody calls me Tommy, so that's Tommy G works. It's
okay.
Great.
All right. Well, Tommy, I want to ask you here now. Okay. Now, I mean, I played soccer growing up as a kid, one of the great high school programs in Greater Cincinnati when I was growing up. We got to a state championship game out at Anderson High School. I loved playing the sport. Professionally, I've had a slow time warming up to it a little bit, but I'm moving in the right direction here. I got to tell you, when I was down in the Over the Rhine area last Saturday night, I mean, it hit me right between the eyes. And I've not been to TQL Stadium yet, so shame on me. But I got to tell you, I mean, this following is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's remarkable. And first of all, just say the word, and I'll get you into TQL Stadium.
Well, thank you.
We can get that set up for you. But the atmosphere, it's amazing. And what's really cool is that TQL Stadium is finally becoming this fortress that was the plan all along. And one of my favorite stories to tell, Dominic Kinnear is an assistant coach on Pat Noonan's staff. And I don't know that there's an assistant coach in Major League Soccer that has more experience than Dom. He's been everywhere. He's done everything across the league. He's won MLS Cup as a head coach. And the first time I ever met him was at TQL Stadium. We were doing some media day stuff. I let him in. He asked me to take him out to the field, and I took him out there, and he just was like, wow. He goes, I've seen it on TV, and it's so much more impressive in person. And he said, if we can get this thing going, this was before he had been on the staff, his first week on staff at FC Cincinnati. He goes, if we can get this thing going, then FC Cincinnati will be unstoppable in Major League Soccer because you have the ownership. You have the ownership group and the funding. You have the training facility for practice out there that's beautiful and world-class. You have now a world-class stadium, and you have the support. So if we can get the product on the field going, then this is going to be one of the best clubs in Major League Soccer. And in short time, in less than a year and a half, they've done that. And the record proves it. What they did last year proves it. And when we played Seattle, it's about a month ago, the atmosphere was off the charts. And it was a cold night. The weather wasn't great, but it was one of the best teams in the Western Conference and felt like a really big playoff match. And the Philadelphia game felt that way. And honestly, that's how it should feel every night. And it's really exciting.
Everybody, Tommy, loves a great turnaround story, okay? I don't care what sport it is. I don't care if it's a sport of life. Everybody likes a nice turnaround story. Explain in the most simplistic terms for maybe some of our viewers, and there are thousands of thousands tuned in right now. Explain to them how has FC Cincinnati in one calendar year completely flipped the script to now become, if not the best team, one of the top two teams in the MLS?
Yeah, it's a great question. And first, it's a credit to Chris Albright for going and getting Pat Noonan and knowing that he could come in and change the culture for this club, because there were problems in the dressing room. There was a team that was split probably in some ways and had so much turnover at head coach and a general manager who had handcuffed them in many ways with moves that Albright had to come in and get the roster in a better place. And he has very much done that and really hit on every single guy that he has signed or traded for or acquired or bought. They're all contributing in one way or another. And that was following years of misses as far as building the roster. And with the way the MLS roster rules work, if you make a bunch of misses, you're going to be in a really bad way. Okay, so it's great he got talent in. But Pat Noonan had to win the culture. And he had to change that locker room, and he has done it. And he has guys who are buying in, and he's getting the best of guys who maybe hadn't had a ton of success. Brandon Vasquez is a perfect example, a young guy who got to Major League Soccer at a very young age. He was in Atlanta behind one of the greatest strikers the league has ever seen, in Joseph Martinez, and didn't get many opportunities. He came to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati kept adding guys ahead of him on the depth chart who weren't necessarily performing, but Brandon wasn't getting a chance. Well, Pat gave him a chance, and he was best 11. He rewarded him with best 11 performance last year and 18 goals. So, he's gotten the most out of some guys, and he has really built a winning culture in that dressing room, and I can't applaud him enough for doing that.
Well, I mean, I talk about it regularly. I love listening to his post-game comments. I mean, he just lays it right out there on the line. You know, when they don't play well, he says they don't play well. They might win a game like they did last week. He's like, it ain't good enough. You know, we got to be better here and we got to be better there. I mean, I love hearing the accountability part of this. Help me with something else I've talked about here, Tommy. Okay. I understand that playing overseas is the goal, right? It's like being a Japanese player and wanting to play baseball in Major League Baseball in the United States. But Casey is a big soccer follower, and he was explaining to me a couple of weeks ago how, they might lose this guy, they might lose that guy, and all that kind of thing. And it seemed like the enthusiasm level went from here to, oh, boy, we could be in trouble, and now it's kind of back up again. Is that something that's going to go on regularly through the year? Do their players become more and more in demand elsewhere?
Yeah, for sure. And look, it's kind of a double-edged sword in some ways, and it's unique to soccer because the top leagues in the sport in the world are not in the United States. It's in Europe, whether you're talking about England or Spain or Italy or France. That's where the top clubs are, and that's where the top money is. So, for example, this week the Brenner move became official as he'll move to the top level in Italy. Playing the top level in Italy is better than playing the top level in Major League Soccer, and there's more money to be made there. So, a record-setting transfer and a transfer that's top 10 outgoing in Major League Soccer is a great thing. Look, if you're selling guys like that, that means you're doing well. The key is having a general manager like Chris Albright who's going to be able to turn around and use that incoming money that's been reported at $10, $11 million for the transfer, be able to use those resources on top of what Carl Lindner and the rest of the ownership group have given him to build the roster and use that money to make the team better. And Chris is already working on it. And then hopefully soon there's some news, about incoming players. And if Brandon Vasquez does really well, teams in Germany and England are going to be calling for him. And that's okay. It's a little bit unfortunate in that you're not going to see a Brandon Vasquez score 18 goals a year for 10 years for FC Cincinnati. That's just the reality, but it's a good thing because if you're successful, then you're going to see those outgoing moves. And if you're the worst team in the league, like FC Cincinnati was for 3 years, then nobody's calling for your guys.
Right.
I worked at the University of Cincinnati for 9 years, and people were calling for the head football coaches, right? I was there when Mark D'Antonio left. I was there when Brian Kelly left. I was there when Butch Jones left. And people are calling for your guys. If nobody's calling for your guy, you got a problem. And it's the same thing, in the global football market. People are going to be calling for your guys, and the club, that means ownership, the technical staff, the general manager are going to have to make decisions as to when it's the right moment to sell somebody. In the meantime, Carl Lindner really wants to win this year. So it's not going to be a fire sale on the roster this year, but as the team continues to be successful, sure, they're going to field a lot of calls.
Well, Tommy, safe travels today. We thank you. We know you got family time here today. You got a busy schedule.
It's all good.
Fantastic. You're doing a great job, and we'd love to have you come back on the program again.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to do it. Next time I'll try not to do it while I'm in transit, but happy to join you, and you guys keep killing it, doing a great job, and good to chat with you.
Thanks so much, Tommy. Appreciate it. Safe travels up to
Thank
New
you.
England for the big one tomorrow night, Casey. Big one tomorrow night.